What's up, everybody? My name is Jason, and welcome to Small Biz. We have breaking news at the 2 o'clock hour on this Monday afternoon that Muln has just tripled the number of shares outstanding, but wait for it. There's another 2.35 billion shares for resale, which will bring in approximately $139.4 million worth of cash. But once again, bring the number of shares outstanding to somewhere near 3 billion. Similar to what we had before the reverse split. So, post Lion Larry's pool party, are we fucked? Or is there a possibility that this could in fact be the bottom for MULN? All that and more coming right up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, happy Monday. We've got 97 degrees coming Friday, which happens to be my sister's birthday. She lives up the street a year younger, absolutely beautiful. So happy birthday, sis, if you happen to tune in, which you do once in a while. But I am here to tell you guys and gals that yes, we are once again approaching 3 billion shares, or will be at the end of this month, outstanding in Mullen. So if you're sitting there wondering, how in the world is this stock down 95% since Lion Larry showed up a few months ago? Now you know. If I'd have said to you, ladies and gentlemen, before the last reverse split, when we had approximately 4 billion shares of stock, that within 60 to 90 days, there'd be another 3 billion post-split, not one, including myself, would have ever believed it yet. Here we are. There's multiple sources. Follow me on Twitter at TrySmallBiz. It is absolutely undeniable. I have read the 8K filing in the SEC. You can see the Investor Place article, which lays it out in black and white. We started, and I'm keeping it simple, stupid, with somewhere around 250 million shares a few months ago after the split. We now learn this morning, based on the filing, there's 646 million shares of stock, and there's 2.3 to 2.35 billion up for resale. What does that mean? A resale of stock, and I have no fucking idea where that much stock came from. If anyone has an idea, tell me in the comments below. But a resale means that the company doesn't get any money from the stock, but they will receive 139.4 million on the conversion of the warrants. And as many of you rightly pointed out, we've got a repricing of between 0.1601 and 1696 for most of those warrants. So are they taking care of the institutions? Absolutely. And even the 20 million that Acuitas did, about a month or so ago, the warrants were priced at 7.255. Those have been knocked down 20 cents to 0.52. So from a glass half full perspective, is it possible, before we talk about Lion Larry, that somewhere in and around 17 cents last trade is the bottom? Yes. In a perfect world, they now have, or they soon will after the warrant conversion, approximately $250 million worth of cash. And if you read the fine print, as I and some of you have, the biggest cash burn, $33 million a quarter, that they've had recently was from the Elms acquisition. If you take that out, now that it's over, the cash burn is really somewhere in and around 10 million a quarter. So if they have $250 million or thereabouts in cash, you're talking about 2 to 3 years worth of cash, assuming the burn rate stays the same. Now, if they actually go into production like they say they're going to this coming month, literally a few weeks from now, that burn rate is going to go higher. So if we are to assume the roughly 40 to 50% chance that this is for real, they do have $250 million of cash. The institutions got a sweet deal to convert their warrants at 16 cents and change. Last trade, 17.10. You have to assume that they're probably going to want to make a stand right here, given that they're going to own a huge chunk of the outstanding shares or the tradable float in and around this price. However, as I said at the open, we're right back to square one. Instead of 4 billion before the split, we're now going to have 3 to 3.15 billion shares, which explains why David, who runs the company, and stick around for my opinion as to who he might have gifted those shares to. That's a clue for you. We now have 3.15 or thereabouts billion shares, which explains why the August 3rd meeting is necessary to have somewhere between a 1 for 2 and a 1 for 100 reverse split. If you had to ask me, given the fact that we're going to have 3 billion shares of MULN outstanding now, 1 for 2 is not going to work. That gets us to 32. 1 for 10 at 17 cents is $1.70. Way too close. In my opinion, it's going to be a minimum of 100 of 1 to 20. Which would take us right now to $3.50 a share approximately, but probably going to goose it up. If you're asking me at gunpoint, what do I think it's going to be? 1 for 50. They're going to want to get this stock somewhere between 5 and 10 so they can what? Ting, 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 ting. So that's assuming it's real. We got to see production. We got to see vehicles moving off the lot. We got to see money coming in the door. If that's the case, combined with $250 million in cash, and most of the institutions are converting right now at 17, there is upside, but I do not give more than 10% chance that it's going to get up and over where I'm sitting right now with some of you at 65 cents to sell it all. Full disclosure, I'm long the stock at $1.13 and minus a little bit that I bought at 60 cents not long ago. I was right when I told people stay away. I should have sold it all. That was my fault. It's a huge mistake. However, wait for it. Wait for it. If you're following me on Twitter, the last 11 trades that we booked, 378% profit. Is your broker got you up 378% in the last 2 months? Have you booked 11 straight winners for 36% on average? The answer for most of you is absolutely fucking not. So if you're following me on Twitter, I can get us out of this ditch. We're going to have dozens and hundreds of winners that will overwhelm this pig that I'm guessing is going to be a 30 to 50% loss for most of us, and in some cases even greater. But if this turns out to be a scam, if this is just a fancy way to get $250 million of cash so they can keep dangling the carrot for many, many years to come, then the scam that some of you believe David is running, now that this is his 5th company into the ground, could go on for a number of years. So we're going to find out, aren't we, in the next 30 days or less as to what the case is. Is this real? Are they going to minimize the level of reverse split now that they've got 250 million or thereabouts in cash? We start to see production. We start to see money coming in the door no later than Q3. They do a minimal reverse of, let's say, 1 for 20 or 1 for 25. And they come out and say, we don't need any more money, or we aren't going to need any more money until 2025 or 6. Then we got a chance to recover some of our loss. But if you're like most that own the stock, $1, $2, $3, $4, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you're not going to make any money in my honest opinion. And I'll give you a simple analogy before I talk about Lion Larry. And if you haven't seen the photos, go to @TrySmallBiz on Twitter. It's unbelievable. And stick around to the end. Some of you have figured out that the ending of these videos is actually probably the best part of the video. I got something for you at the end. But if we don't see production, back on track, Jason, in the next few weeks, if we don't see trucks moving off the lot, whether they're from China and being sold on Alibaba for 30 G's or not, if we don't see stock moving off the lot and money coming in the door, we're fucked. It's a scam. And I would give you a 60% chance that it is a scam. Because again, and I want to see an answer in the comments below here on YouTube, who would have thunk that we would have 3 billion shares outstanding in such a short period of time? Who would have thought that we'd have to be voting in August on another reverse split less than 6 months from the last one? I never would have thought that, which has me leaning towards a scam. And if there is any doubt that it might be a scam, all you got to do is look at Lion Larry's photos from last night, Facebook. I want to say before I forget, a special shout out to the gentleman who sent me the information, including the real owner of the house. Folks, that is not Lion Larry's house. It's an old friend of his. You can see the guy's face in front of a number of cars with Larry from prior posts. Larry was there partying it up with, let's call it a dozen, and I don't want to use the H word or the E word, a dozen honeys that were half naked. And he's sitting there, similar to, this is Chopin, depending on where you're from, Potato Vodka from Poland. But he's holding on what looks like an $800 or $900 bottle of Hennessy. And there's no guys there. It's just Lion Larry sitting there posing with his whiskey and a bunch of girls. I will give him credit for inclusivity. It looked like an even mix of black, brown, and white. But I got news for you, Larry, and anyone who's paying attention to soccer in the last few months, when they had the FIFA Cup, I believe it was in the United Arab Emirates, they are dead set against public displays of intoxication. So if you actually had a $10 billion deal with the Saudis or the UAE or anyone over there in the desert, the last thing you want to be doing is hanging out poolside, family show, I hear you, Ma, with a bunch of naked women and no guys in sight. My guess, the guy who took the photograph is the same guy who owns the house. You can find him on Reddit and in other places. But the obvious question in closing is, who got the 2.6 million shares that David gifted last week at 26.16? You'll notice the last half a dozen or so times that David has filed and he still owns 113 million shares, he's gifted them to an undisclosed person. Why the SEC allows this is beyond me. It's to protect the elites. You know the reason why. But he is gifting away recently 2.6 million shares. So if I had to guess, and I've been around the block a few thousand times, I would not be surprised, although there are some that differ, claiming it's a dark-haired woman, I will not say her name, that did some marketing for David. That's too big of a lot, in my opinion, to give her. You know who I think may, and underline the word may, got the 2.6 million shares? Big Pimp. Lion Larry, right? It all makes sense. He's gone off the rails in the last week or so, ever since that he said once again the deal was off. So I'm going to guess right about the same time that David gifted away 2.6 million shares at 26 cents and change, he gave it to Lion Larry. And he probably said words to the effect of, shut your fucking mouth. And if it is true, like Lion Larry said in a prior post before he went off it again, that the deal was done last Monday or thereabouts, it would explain the behavior. If he got approximately, let's call it $700,000 or $800,000, that would explain how him and his buddy could finance a pool party with no dudes and about a dozen or so women that were half naked. But I have to tell you, I got to tell you, just keeping it real, ladies and gentlemen, when he was by the pool, right, and he was posing, he was showing you his bottle, and the girls were just scattered about. When I saw the one that was sitting on the recliner, let's call it, she was showing you what she was working with, I got to admit, for half a second, I was a tad, and I'm talking a tad bit jealous.